So, welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at Warfighter, World War II Pacific combat card game from DVG. This is from 2018, it's just fresh off of the Kickstarter they did last year. So this is brand new. This is both an expansion to Warfighter World War II, but also this is a standalone title. You can purchase this box and play the game with everything in it. This is kind of a big, hefty box. It weighs a ton because this is a card game, and this is just chock full of cards. It's literally full to the brim. This is a solitaire game. You can play it co-op. I have played Warfighter co-op. I do enjoy it. I think I've played it with 2 players and 3 players. It provides you a different experience when you play co-op, and depending on the number of players. This can support up to 6 players. I'm not sure I would ever do that, only because you start to run out of good characters to play with, or some guys are playing just kind of support guys or NPSs, and that's not things that get maybe not as fun. I'm not sure. But I'm going to stick with mainly solo or 2 or 3 player co-op for this one. This is a tactical level game. You literally have a couple of dudes, you know, anywhere from 1 or 2, well, you might have like 2 or 3 really kind of strong guys, or you might have 4 or 5, two of which are kind of just support kind of grunts or squad members. Not maybe as powerful, but they're going to help you achieve your objective. So it really is to a man. Each card represents a person. That's how kind of close of a scale this is to kind of individual people. So the main thing you're going to get first off is the rulebook. And this is kind of this glossy DVG type rulebook you're going to get. And for DVG, this is a big rulebook. This is 50 pages. Now, some of this is some optional stuff. Some of it is some expansions. So this is a vehicles expansion that was part of the Kickstarter, but isn't included in this. But this is where the rules are. Shore invasion, also an extra thing. Medals, also an extra thing. Fortifications, also an extra thing. Airborne, also an extra thing. They do provide you with the campaigns in this box, but the little card decks are separate. But all of this is, so really you're looking at 40 pages worth of rules that you will look through and learn, but it's not dense. Lots of pictures and examples. This is a very quick game to pick up and learn, especially considering it's 40 pages, right? So, rulebook, I found it's quite an accessible rulebook as well. There's a really good play aid card in here, which we'll get to in a second. We have the board. This is, in theory, you could play without the board, and because really, the board is just kind of some holding boxes for the areas. You can kind of see these are numbered, so this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, go all the way to 11, and you've got things like turn sequence here, attack sequence, little attack chart. Over here you've got a mission timer, and then you've got places for decks of cards and a little setup. But the reality is if you didn't have the board, you're not really missing anything, because all of this stuff is in the rules. You kind of learn this very quickly. I did not find myself having to reference to a lot of this stuff ever after playing this one time. But it is nice to have. I do like it for organizational reasons. Now, we do have here 5 sheets of counters. These are all mostly administrative because a lot of this is card based. So these are kind of target markers. You'll put a bunch of these in the cups and you'll draw these. This is who the enemy's going to target, which number soldier you are basically. Some hardy markers. These are going to help you withstand the elements or sickness, things like that. Enemy KIAs, how many kills you do on a card. Suppressions as well. Have some grenade counters, those are always fun. Different kind of smoke grenades, blast grenade, things like that too. These are experience points, 1 and 2. You'll gain those by killing enemies, and you can use those for game effects. These are wound markers, and because of the time scale of these games, you get wounds. You can attempt to treat a wound. You might be able to heal it. If you don't, you kind of flip it over to this bandaged side because you can't reattempt to heal that wound. So things can get pretty nasty if you can't heal yourself well. So make sure you got those first aid kits. More hardy markers, more little kind of markers here. So we've got satchel charges, breaching charges, rifle grenades, rockets, things like that. Ammo counters. And the backs of these ammo counters have an empty marker on them because the way they work is you have a stack, and if you need to reload, you flip it to empty. You have to do a reload action to remove that. It's pretty cool. These are markers for your soldiers. So you can see there's 2 of each number. So you put 1 on the card, which is your reference basically, and you'll put 1 on that tactical board. You'll actually move through the regions. So that way you don't have a big hunk of stuff moving around. You just move a small counter that refers back to your little tableau down here. So that's really nice. Really enjoy that. Some action markers. The action markers are used on this side. Each soldier mostly has 2 actions to play around with. Either move or attack or do some other bits and pieces. So your actions are in limited supply. You do have to really pay attention to what you're doing with those. Bandage markers. These are close combat markers. So if you engage in close combat, you put out your marker on a specific card, like an enemy hostile card, and that means you're trying to engage them in melee specifically. Different mortar here, mortar stuff. These ABCDs, I don't remember what these are for. We didn't use those. Well, I'm sure there's different objective bits and pieces you might use those for. And some different markers up here. Fuses, bipods, foxhole entrenching tools that you may have used. Fuel markers. Another series of kind of unit markers here. So you have some tank ones, because this includes the markers for the tank's expansion. Now here's some interesting stuff. You'll see some holy water and some divinity markers. This also has rules for a zombies expansion. It harkens back to kind of the Call of Duty, Nazi zombies type thing. There is like a fun-filled expansion for that kind of stuff. Parachutes for the airborne expansion. Charges and rope, that's for the fortifications expansion, where you'll literally be breaching doors and door breaching, busting your way in with explosives. And enemy held, those are just markers for the campaigns, which we have here. So the campaigns start as enemy held. You have to go and take them, usually. So let's take a look at the campaigns here. Let's see, we have a whole bunch. That is not one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 expansions in here. And I think, let's see, Dunkirk, I think you need some of the regular World War II Warfighter for. And this is Market Garden, so this is airborne expansion. But I think, again, you might need some of the World War II in there. So really, you've got Wake Island, an offensive campaign, where you play as the Japanese trying to take the island. There's a defensive version, where you play as the Americans trying to defend and escape the island. Buna Station, again, you play as the Marines trying to take back Buna Station. Macon Island, you play as the US Marines trying to take Macon Island. Guadalcanal, trying to take Guadalcanal back, you play as the US Marines. Tarawa, same thing. And then Iwo Jima, same thing. These are, if you look at the dates, they do progress through the war, and later war you get better equipment and things like that as well. There is here a photocopyable campaign log, so that you make 2 squads in a lot of these campaigns. You track all of their different weapons and costs and things like that, so that it carries over from mission to mission. This is that play aid card I referenced earlier. So this is a trifold purely of keywords. This is a card game, so a lot of the cards will say like nature, environment, fever +6, obstructed, isolated. each of those words means something more than just its dictionary definition. It has a game function, and all of that is right here. This is alphabetical, and it is fairly exhaustive. There's a couple things that aren't on here, those that are in the rules, but almost everything is on here, and you really, so much of it, you just flip a card, look at what it has on it, and then it tells you here what to do. This is why this is a really easy game to learn. You read the rulebook once, and then you just stick with this, and you can do almost everything in the game just by doing that, and it's really, really easy, and I really appreciate a good play like that. And everything else in this box is some dice and a ton of cards. So the game uses a D10 for almost every roll, and it uses a D6 specifically for defeating an enemy's cover or an enemy trying to defeat your cover. So often you'll roll a D10 and a D6. The D10 is your to hit roll, and your D6 is like, do you penetrate their defenses, basically. You try to hit with both to kill someone. Most other things, if you hit with either one of those, you'll do a suppression, or you might miss with both and do nothing. Not good. So the cards, we're going to take a look at these. We'll start with the action cards. Oh, we have a lot of stuff here. Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll get it all out. This is just a little cardboard insert. We'll throw that away. Okay, let's take a little gander at the cards here. So this deck, all the cards have different backs. So half of this is an action deck, and there's like a couple of locations. So this game is played with, you have a couple dudes, and then your players will just have a hand of cards to accentuate and go along with what they're trying to actually do. Those are called action cards. So we have a bunch more action cards here. And the action deck's pretty hefty. Events. The events don't come up all that often. These are just kind of random things that might happen. I think in a mission, you'll get like one or two of these at most. Some of them are pretty bad. Immediately perform an attack for a random hostile in play that is in range to attack. The hostile also attacks as normal this turn. So the enemy does an extra attack. Pay 2 experience or move the timer 1 space forward. You get lost, takes you a little bit longer to complete your mission. Permanently reduce the entrance cost of this location by 1. Easy going, so the terrain wasn't as bad as you thought it was. So some of them are positive, some of them are negative. Pretty random, but not game breaking in any way. But they might ease the pressure or put more pressure on you. Well, we have here some enemies. These are elites, and we have some frontline as well. So the enemies are divided into 2 categories. The categories being elite and frontline. Frontline are kind of your normal standard ones that you should play with to start with, and the elites are much, much stronger. Okay, so these, and they say on them, frontline. Nice and easy. So these guys, they have historical pictures on them, which I really, really appreciate. Helps me really get into the game a bit. They have a value up here, and this is how many experience they provide, but also it's also that's used for how you draw them and when as well. There's some nuance to that. Basically, it has 3 guys. This card represents 3 dudes. So this is here. This is a harassing force. It's got a little to hit chart for them when they attack you, and then down here you've got some little special rules for them. And this little cover number is why you need that D6. So if I'm attacking them, I roll my dice. This 9 is almost always going to hit. That's a very good roll. You're trying to roll high in this game. 9 or a 10 is very good. And you're trying to roll your D6 to equal or exceed this number. So that's going to be a hit. And I'm going to penetrate, so I'm going to kill one of these guys. You'll put one of those green EKA markers out. There's only 2 guys left. Now, why is that important? Because when it comes to their turn, instead of having 3 guys, they only have 2. So they're going to roll on this much worse chart here. Normally they would hit on a 7, but now they're only going to hit on a 10. So it's important for you to whittle these guys down. And that's why you might find yourself spreading your fire to weaken their attacks instead of focus firing. There's some really interesting choices tactically as to how you do that. But all in all, this is an NCO who's got 1, an officer, rifleman's got 3, Little mortar team has got 2, light machine guns 2, 3. You know, these is fairly typical of your front line. The elites are often much better. Their hit rolls are much better. Usually, it's harder to beat their cover. They got higher cover values. Also, there's like more of them. 4, 4, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, and they've just got more abilities. Better. It's better attack rolls. That's a lot of what it is. Like this guy's got 7. You have to do 7 kills to this guy. It's just gonna be very difficult to do. It takes up a lot of time to do that because it's a lot of actions to attack that much. But those are the enemies. Those get pulled out as you enter new locations. Now, let's look at some of the soldiers, the guys that you play with. How are you going to attack them? Because that's kind of what's here. So there's a bunch of different, there's three different types of soldiers. You have here, this is a normal player soldier. Okay, he has 6 health. He has a loadout of 14, which means he can carry 14 points worth of equipment. He's got a +1 hand-to-hand rating. He's got a 2 movement value, and he's got a 2 cover value. But on top of that, he has all these special abilities. Focus, marksman, machine gunner, and he carries an M19182 and machine gun. So he's got a light machine gun that he just carries around and guns people down with. That's kind of his jam. We do have in here, so this is US Marines, little Marine symbol here. Kind of mixed into here, you do have extra expansion cards for previous games. So we do have some German units here. Marine, this is US Army. You can see this has a different back to that US Marine card. Doesn't have the little symbol. You can kind of tell on the front, it has these little dog tags. The Marines have the little Marine pin. There's like some French soldiers, British Airborne, French, Finnish, Americans, more Finnish, Germans. So we'll have to sort through all these. Canadians. That's New Zealand. They probably call them Anzacs. That's the flag of New Zealand, I think. British, Russians. So you do have to kind of organize these, but they give you like extra guys for all of the Warfighter that you already have. Let's see. Looks like we've got some skill cards and some more soldiers here. There's just a ton of this. Woo! Okay, more soldiers. So we have here more Americans, more British, French, Finns. Okay, so those are soldiers. So now we get into the weapons. So here's a bayonet. Strong attacks require two-handed and a rifle or carbine. So to do this strong attack, you have to have basically a rifle in both hands. You can use it to do other things if you wanted to, but to get its maximum effectiveness, you have to stick on into a rifle. K-bar knife, M3 knife, bayonet. This is a German bayonet. British FS knife, British bayonet, Russian cavalry saber. Ooh, so cool. Polish bayonet. So again, expansion stuff for other series that you've got. So those are some weapons. We have, these are skills. Rocket launcher. Piat for the British. Panzerschreck for the Germans. Panzerfaust. M1A1 rocket launcher for the Ruskies. We have some equipment, things like binoculars, camouflage, breaching charges. These are some more skill cards. And these you pay a cost to buy them in this top right hand corner, and they give you an ability. And some of them are really, really good, and you use them to tailor your guys to be good at specific things. A couple of reference cards there. Satchel charge. So if I want my guy to be a good spotter, I can pay 1 action to add 1 to the attack rolls of another soldier's attack in the same location for the end of the turn. So it's good to have as a little spotter there. Once each soldier turn, any one soldier may transfer 1 or 2 action cards to one other player soldier. Not normally allowed. This is really helpful. And that's why it's nice to play this card, because there is a lot of that working together, things like that. If you play the solo, you might have 2 player soldiers, and Each of those has a hand of cards you have to kind of manage, but you could swap them across. Ooh, let me get that out. If you look here, this little guy just says squad, and he has he has his own little attack chart. This is basically like an NPC. You control him, he has actions, but he just kind of follows along. He doesn't have a hand of those action cards. He doesn't really have any skills. He just does ranged attacks. That's all he does. He just moves and attacks. That's all he can do. So that's where you might want to deck out your team with a couple of player soldiers, maybe a couple of these squaddies, because look, these are much, much cheaper, but all they do is move and shoot. So you have to go in, pave the way for them, so that they can come in and do some good shots for you. So there's some really nice interplay between your main guys and having a couple of support guys. It's better than having just like two huge guys who are pimped out with all the weapons and skills, because if one of them goes down, you're hosed. Having these extra support guys to lay down fire or to help you support your actions, really, really important. They have some more weapons and more action cards here. There's just so many cards. This is a very card-heavy game. Okay, more action cards. A lot of these are action cards. And a lot of it is you get to do this thing for free, or you can enhance this other thing that you're doing as a normal action. So here we get to the guns, right? M1919, so it's a 30 cal in it. Tripod, light machine gun, pistol, grenade rifle, scoped rifle. This one's fascinating. I played with this for the first time. I was like, whoops. This one is worse at short range and good at long range. It's scoped. He's a sniper. He's meant to hang back. This was a very interesting card to play with. Bayonet, machete, Thompson submachine gun, grenades, shotgun, M1 carbine. Again, you're going to be paying for those, decking your guys out with those. We have here more weapons and more enemies, it looks like. You can never have too many of those. Weapon. More of those kind of equipment cards. More skills. There's a ton of these. This game is so customizable. Remember, there's 1 billion expansions for this. You'll never get bored of messing around with this. More enemies. So these are a lot of, say, elite on the back. Elite, a lot of elite frontline, elite frontline. You just have to organize these. Like every other card's different. I have to organize these. And then let's look at these. So we've got our mission and location cards in here. And like I said, I do love a game that's got historical photos on it. And that's what this is. And I really like that. So we got a couple more Marines here. I wonder if I have any NPS. Okay. Real quick. This is an NPS. This is a non-player soldier. He does have equipment, but he only has what's listed on here. Basically, this guy is the halfway house between your normal player soldiers that you can deck out and customize to the max, and those little squad guys who are just a move and shoot counter, basically. These guys are halfway in between. So again, another level of customization, and how much do you really want to do with these? A ton more Marines there. So these are location cards. And the locations are, oh, let's see. We have some missions. All right, these are the missions. Objectives. Where are my locations? Mission, objective, mission, objective. Okay. So the locations: stream, steep rise, light jungle, hot jungle, warm jungle, jungle, deep jungle, moist jungle, heavy jungle, muddy slope, clearing, kunai grass, beach, swamp, ravine. So a lot of jungle. It's the Pacific, imagine that. You're hacking your way through those. Bad guys are going to pop up. You're trying to complete your mission, so you pick one of these to start with, and you put it on the left side of the board. You'll move through a number of locations based on what the mission says. So this mission says you're going to go, the objective's in the 6th space, so you're going to go through 5 spaces, then the objective. When you get to the objective, depending on which one you chose or which one's assigned, let's say you get to an airfield. You have to destroy 4 buildings and explosion attacks only are going to do that. And it's got some different bits and pieces here about what's going on. Some keywords, like we said, that we're going to reference. So you know that beforehand, so when you deck your guys that you're like, okay, we need satchel charges, we need some of those breaching charges, we need grenades, a lot of stuff. So you can deck yourself with the stuff, try and rush in, blow all that stuff up, meet the criteria here on the objective. And that's what this game is. It's to a man, 4 or 5 guys going on a special forces mission or a patrol, going in, doing what you're supposed to do. A ton of cards, a lot to organize and get through, and kind of reorganize in the box. But appreciate you guys tuning in for an unboxing of this. Very excited to keep rolling with this one. We've played it a few times already, but wanted to show you what this looks like with a brand new copy. So this is World War II Pacific Warfighter from Dan Burson Games.